there could be more than usual volatility.
After an already bumpy start to the year, Nvidia's next earnings report is expected to make some major moves.
The market could very well sell off sharply to begin with.
But MarketBeat's Thomas Hughes is making a bold, bullish prediction on what's ahead for Nvidia this summer.
Based on the technical signals I'm seeing, it could rise above the $200 level by middle or late summer.
Don't miss his technical analysis on Nvidia, plus a deep dive into what could drive the stock even higher.
Open up an entire new market. That alone is adding billions of dollars.
It's a full look ahead at what you can expect with Wednesday's earnings report. Let's dive in. Tom, it's so great to have you back on the show talking about the big earnings report everyone's been waiting for, and that's Nvidia. If you followed this channel before, you know we love to cover Nvidia every time earnings comes around because there's so much action on this stock. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber yet so you can catch all of our Nvidia coverage and our daily other broadcasts as well. Well, Thomas, let's get into Nvidia earnings a little bit. It's tomorrow. What is the market kind of expecting and doing today in anticipation of earnings?
Well, I think the market was up the last time I looked, but the chart action over the last few weeks is very bullish. The market certainly has a high expectation going into this release. I think that it's expecting to have a good, strong report and a good, strong guide. It looks to me like this stock is ready to continue moving higher, and based on the technical signals I'm seeing, it could rise above the $200 level maybe by middle or late summer.
That is a bold call on Nvidia. We're going to dive into your bullish outlook on Nvidia, what analysts are saying, and those sorts of things in just a minute. But let's start with a look at what to expect with earnings coming this week. There's always all kinds of volatility around Nvidia earnings, and that's because the entire market is watching this stock. What should investors expect with this earnings report tomorrow?
I think that there could be more than usual volatility. I think that the trend is up. I think that the report will result in the trend remaining up. But because of what you're saying, all the expectations going into the market, there's even a few more moving pieces this time than there has been in the past. So there's a chance for some unknowns to arrive. And I think that's really seen in the analyst revisions for earnings and revenue. There have not been a lot of revisions the last 90 days. And there have actually been more downward revisions than upward revisions. So we're expecting a very robust report, but I don't really think the analysts know what to expect. Previously, there's been a lot more clear indications this time with the restrictions on China and some new deals that have emerged kind of offsetting each other. Maybe there's some weakness in the current report, but the guidance will be really strong. But again, the current report could also be very strong, and the guidance will still also be very, very strong.
Yeah, it is a little bit of that wait and see. We're going to find out what happens. And that volatility that you're expecting, we've seen it go both ways. I think the last few NVIDIA earnings report, we've seen as much as a 10% market swing. And many times it's a negative swing, even though NVIDIA will have a strong earnings report. It's not enough to satisfy, and the market goes a little wild with that 10% drop or so. But then there's always that recovery more so in the long term for this company. Any thoughts on whether we might see that negative downturn after earnings tomorrow, or if it could even be a positive swing this time? What would it take to turn that swing to positive for NVIDIA?
Tomorrow, because there's going to be so much in the report, investors are going to need to read through the whole thing to see what the results are, to see what the impact from China's restrictions are, to see what the impact on the guidance is. So because of that, I think that there could be some knee-jerk reactions. The market could very well sell off sharply to begin with, but I think that the guidance is going to be very, very robust, and I think that will keep the market moving higher over time, if not tomorrow. But because it's a lot of what ifs, but because the guidance is supposed to be so robust, I think that tomorrow, even if there is an initial downward swing, by the time that after hours trading is done, the NVIDIA market will probably be higher.
Now, we can definitely expect a lot of moves for NVIDIA this week, and you can stay on top of all of them by signing up for our new free text alert service. Just text YouTube to 68285 to sign up for this totally free service. You can choose which stocks you want to set alerts for, including NVIDIA, to help stay on top of all of these post-earning moves that might come. Let's dive into what you think the charts are saying about a really strong next few months for NVIDIA.
This most recent article, this is really a speculation based on what to expect with the upcoming earnings report. But what I'm seeing in the charts is very bullish. This market is definitely expecting some big things to come. And with any technical analysis, um, a single signal in the market doesn't really mean anything. You could get a MACD signal, you could get a moving average signal. By itself doesn't mean a whole lot. When you get a convergence of signals, more than one signal agreeing with each other is when you get a really high probability for a market movement. And in this case, just right out the bat, there are 5 easy to see, very clear convergences that show that this chart is bullish and provide a high probability that the stock will continue to move higher no matter what happens tomorrow. Now, the first one is down here in the MACD histogram and the oscillator. MACD measures momentum. We can see that the momentum histogram has shifted from bullish to bearish, but also down here at the bottom, the oscillator has quite a long way to go to reach overbought territory. So we have bullish momentum and quite a lot of room for the market to run. At the same time, the stochastic is also showing a bullish crossover down here. It's rising and it's about to move over to move above this upper signal line, which would be a sign of strength. Both of those signals are happening in conjunction with this trend following bounce. The market sold off here. It hit the bottom during the peak of tariff fears and has been rebounding strongly ever since. What we have now today, this week, is the price action is also above this important moving average cluster. This cluster represents the short-term and long-term traders and investors. It shows a broad, wide amount of market support. And at the same time, these moving averages are forming a golden crossover. The golden crossover is when the short-term moving average crosses above the long-term moving average. And it just shows that long-term and short-term traders are coming into alignment and they're both actively buying the stock. So in this scenario, there is risk of resistance here near these current all-time highs. But if the market were to move across this level, it would be a bullish signal. And in that scenario, the ensuing move could be equal to the move of this rally from April to late May, which is about $60. You add 60 to about 140, you get about $200. That aligns with the analyst targets. So there you have it.
And that's quite the technical analysis. I want to play devil's advocate a little bit and just mention all of the volatility in this chart. There have been so many ups and downs with the entire market, but Nvidia going right along with it. And in many cases, Nvidia affected even worse than some other stocks with all of the market volatility we've seen over the past couple of months. So with all of the abnormal market volatility, does it make a technical analysis like this and these predictions a little bit more difficult simply because we've had so much irregular market activity?
It kind of does. What we've had over the last few months, few quarters, is Nvidia consolidating. We saw the first wave of Nvidia, the AI bubble, take it to these all-time highs. Since then, the stock has also had a split. So the market's really been consolidating, kind of digesting the gains. We've had some rotation from previous winners to the next round of winners, profit taking and repositioning. I think what we're seeing now is the market has completed the consolidation and is getting ready to break out for its next run higher.
It would be quite a run for people who got in on Nvidia when it was down below $100 just a month or two ago, where it was trading at that $96, $97 range. If it does get up to $200 this year, that would be quite the feat for a company of this size to double in value in just a very short time frame. That's the kind of growth investors saw in the early days of Nvidia, and kind of not what you would expect as this company continues to grow. It can't grow at that exponential rate forever, and I think that's an important thing to talk about ahead of earnings. The earnings growth that the analysts are expecting this quarter is still really good. It's, I think, above 60% is what the expected outlook is. But that's a lot less than the 200+% growth it saw the same time last year. It's the kind of slowdown that I think investors have to expect as this company gets so large.
So that's the law of large numbers. You know, it is going to slow. It's impossible to continue growing at 100% pace. And you got to consider, even if Nvidia slows to a 10% growth next year and sustains it as it's expected to for the next 10 years, 10% growth on top of this year is bigger than the company was just 3 years ago. So that's a huge number. So you're thinking you're going to add another Nvidia to itself every year for the next decade. This stock is definitely undervalued based on common price multiples. The stock could easily rise by 100% and possibly 200% by the middle of the next decade.
Yeah, this is a beast for sure. Well, I want to talk about a few factors going into the long-term growth of Nvidia. I know the focus right now with this video is talking about earnings expectations tomorrow, but it's important to also kind of give that wide picture growth of what factors this company has going for it right now that could lead to that positive earnings growth that you're expecting this year.
Well, right. So just to begin with, AI infrastructure is still in a very aggressive build out phase. We just got those deals with Saudi Arabia. That's opened up an entire new market. So that alone is adding billions of dollars to the earnings or the revenue forecast each year for the next 5 years. The spending will probably increase, and that doesn't count like the longer term outlook for this or for Saudi Arabia's AI push, because it also wants to be a very large AI player. But there are other things, and we were talking about the robotic announcements earlier before we started the video. That's just an example of many things that NVIDIA has been doing to expand its reach outside of data centers, outside of just AI infrastructure, but providing a platform and a basis for AI to move into all other different areas of technology. And robotics is very important. I think one of our writers wrote an article about humanoid robots this past weekend, and robots are a big deal, but you got to think this technology will get used for autonomous vehicles and automating warehouses long before we have a humanoid robot. So there's a very, very large application for that application of AI, and it's only one of dozens that the company is working on.
And all of those are still in their very early stages. So it goes to reason that it would just increase demand as these developments become more mainstream and we see more production in these areas. So
Right.
it's a strong future ahead for NVIDIA. Anything else that you want to share with viewers ahead of earnings report on Wednesday? Are you anticipating building up even to that report coming out after market close on Wednesday? What do you expect to see in after hours on Tuesday, on Wednesday, leading up to that report?
Well, one thing I want to point out, analyst activity over the last 2 quarters or so has kind of played into NVIDIA's inability to set new highs and to sustain them. It's consolidation. And the reality is that analyst activity has landed the stock on MarketBeat's list of most downgraded names. So NVIDIA is technically the most downgraded stock. But really what that means is price target reductions. They're still very bullish. There's a very bullish bias with 85% of the ratings rating it as a buy. The consensus target still expects at least a 30% upside. And so what I'm seeing right now is if we get a good, strong report, even an okay report that kind of affirms all the things that we're expecting, that should lead the analysts back into upward revisions, which would be another positive catalyst for the market and could potentially make the rebound, the next leg of the rally, be even stronger than what I'm anticipating.
Another important thing to talk about with NVIDIA earnings is this is the last of the Mag 7 to report this earnings season. What could this report, the outcome of this report, really say about the market as a whole going into the whole summer?
Well, I think it would be very bullish for the market. The report just in general, I expect it to affirm what the other Mag 7 stocks have said, which is that AI spending is robust. Their results are still robust. The outlook for AI in general is robust. And because these stocks are all leading the market generally, I would expect NVIDIA and the other Mag 7s to continue moving higher and to take the rest of the S&P 500 with it.
I know tomorrow we are going to do a live broadcast here on our channel at 4:30 Eastern time, right as the NVIDIA earnings report is coming out, so that our MarketBeat analysts Chris Markoch and Thomas can come on and really go over the data that we see in NVIDIA earnings report and also digest a little bit more about the future of this company, what catalyst it has going for it right now. Thomas, tell viewers what they can expect a little bit tomorrow in that broadcast too.
Well, we're going to look at the report. We're going to go through the details. We're really going to focus on the revenue growth and the earnings. We're going to look at the guidance, especially the guidance is really what's going to drive the stock higher over time. But also what I'm interested in is the balance sheet. The company has been generating, ridiculous amounts of cash. I would expect to see the balance sheet reflect that again, even with increased spending. They may not say anything about it this report, but I really do expect to see NVIDIA really ratchet up its capital returns just because it has so much cash, and what else is it going to do with it?
Very good point. Well, we will dive into all of those details and much more during that live broadcast tomorrow. Thank you, Thomas, for your time today, giving us a little preview about what investors can expect leading into NVIDIA earnings. Join us at 4:30 Eastern time on Wednesday for a live look and dive into NVIDIA's earnings report. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Let us know what you think about NVIDIA and what you're expecting in the comments. Thanks again, and as always, happy investing.